Hey everyone, it's Ryder from Skip. I hope you're doing well. I've got a big news roundup today. An additional state has been approved for SSBCI funding. That's the $10 billion to help small businesses. Plus, a major piece of legislation is now one step closer to passing in the Senate and getting signed into law. That's $300 billion. So stick around. We've got a lot of great news today. As always, if you're new, thanks so much for subscribing, turning on alerts, and hitting the like button. So I'm going to get to the SSBCI funding. But first of all, for those of you who are subscribers, you were able to join me yesterday. I did a one-on-one interview with an SBA director who's in charge of EIDL communications. We talked for about 45 minutes. It was a fantastic interview on the state of the EIDL program, the new EIDL phase that we're going into, aka repayment, and what's the deal with those 40,000 or so applications that are still quote unquote pending. So we went into all that, a lot of great questions. I'll link to that video above in case you want to go watch that full interview with Alex from the SBA. And coming up next week, we have 2 live webinars. On Tuesday, August 9th, we're going to be doing another grants and funding roundup. And on Wednesday, August 10th, a special live here for our members to talk about marketing and customer acquisition tips. It's going to be a great one. If you're interested, go to helloskip.com/plus to become a member and use the special invite code YTVIP, YT for YouTube VIP. Okay, first I'll start with the SSBCI news. A question for all of you today. Are you aware of this program? I've done a few videos on the state small business credit initiative. Is this on your radar and something that you're thinking about applying for? So there's $10 billion that's being distributed to states. Every state, territory, and even tribal governments have applied, and only 14 had been approved. Now, 1 more has been added. We're tracking all of this. If you're interested in this, you can click the link in the description to add your email and your state. We will notify you when there's movement in your state. So whatever state or territory you're in, we will notify you when something changes. Today, the big news is the Treasury announced North Carolina approved to receive up to $201.9 million to promote small business growth and entrepreneurship. So if you're in North Carolina, would love to hear in the comments. Before I share the North Carolina details, the quick recap on which states have funding so far: Arizona, Connecticut, Hawaii, Indiana, Kansas, Maine, Maryland, Michigan, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, South Carolina, South Dakota, Vermont, and West Virginia. So if you're in any of those states, chime in. Only Maryland is taking applications, but here is the press report. North Carolina approved for up to $202 million. Will operate 3 different programs, including a loan participation program, to which it is allocated $160 million. So most of this funding will go to 2 types of programs: loan participation and venture capital funding. Loan participation, it's just better access to capital with some SBA guarantees. So it's funneled through local lenders, community banks, CDFIs, which help give out capital to traditionally underserved or underrepresented communities. So that's where a lot of this money is going. In this case, in North Carolina, this loan participation program helps lenders engage in small business lending and provide support to underserved businesses. The state has partnered with the North Carolina Rural Center to administer the program, which aims to support communities in their efforts to revitalize central business districts, strengthen neighborhoods, foster small business recovery, and support economic growth. So that's North Carolina and the SSBCI update. Before I get into the $300 billion climate and tax bill, which is going to affect everyone watching this video, strong hiring in July added over 500,000 jobs to the economy. This news just came out this morning. There's now a jobless rate of 3.5%, matches the half-century low seen just before the pandemic. So the gains last month were widespread. Employers in leisure and hospitality added jobs at a solid clip, and payrolls grew in healthcare and professional and business services. So there it is. The jobs recovery took nearly 2.5 years and included a stretch in the first half of the year. So here's a question that's probably on your mind. Why are businesses still hiring even as the recession or recession risks, depending on how you look at it, mount? We're in a contracting economy. There's no doubt about that. Demand for labor remains well above the number of available workers. Here's the main takeaway. The disconnect between the growing job market and otherwise faltering economy boils down to one key point. Despite slowing consumer demand, the supply of workers to make goods and provide services has been considerably below companies' needs. You know, this is quite interesting to see why the job market is so tight. There are signs that it's starting to cool. There were more tech layoffs announced this week, including Robinhood laid off a quarter of its staff a couple days ago. Many of you who've been tuning in here have followed the Robinhood boom since the start of the pandemic, and it laid off a quarter of its staff just a couple days ago. There are still lots of cuts in the tech sector among white-collar jobs. So here's one person takes, quote, "You hear stories of tech startups laying people off, like Robinhood, but that's not the story in every sector. Leisure and hospitality jobs are still down 1 million relative to pre-COVID, so there's still competition for lower wage, high contact services jobs." This chart right here sums up the dynamic: job openings versus the unemployed but seeking work. There's many more job openings than people who are actually looking for work. So then there's a question of, why aren't there a lot of people looking for work, or why does that gap exist? Would love to hear if this is affecting you, whether you're hiring. A lot of the business owners we talk to, the number one reason they want funding is so they can bring on more people. For a lot of the folks that I've talked to, that our teams talk to, that continues to be the number one problem. Would love to hear what you think about that, but here is the climate bill to end today's news roundup. $369 billion climate and tax package was a surprise announcement last week. It came back from the dead after Joe Manchin, Joe's back in the news, supported this last week. He unexpectedly dropped his opposition. Remember, him and Kyrsten Sinema are the two swing Democratic votes in the split Senate. He supported it. This would be the biggest package towards climate initiatives ever. Here's a quick summary. The bill aims to tackle global warming by using billions of dollars in tax incentives to ramp up wind, solar, geothermal, battery, other clean energy industries over the next decade. Companies would receive financial incentives to keep open nuclear plants that may have closed, or to capture emissions from industrial facilities. Car buyers would receive tax credits to purchase new electric vehicles, a great sign for electric car companies, including Tesla, whose stock has been going up, and Americans would receive rebates to install heat pumps and make their homes more energy efficient. So these are basically carrots rather than sticks, incentivizing consumer behavior and business behavior and businesses to invest in these clean energies and technologies. And the last holdout was Kyrsten Sinema, who late last night said she would support this package. She was the last holdout. There's now a vote slated for over the weekend to pass the Senate within days. So when that passes, I'll let you know, but that's a lot of money, $300 billion, again, mainly around incentives for both industries to develop technologies, invest in technologies right here in the US, in your state, and for consumers, all of us, to have tax breaks to purchase things like new or used electric vehicles. So would love to hear what you think about that. It's a major piece of legislation. So thanks for tuning in to the quick news roundup. Hope you have a great weekend ahead. If you're curious about the SSBCI funding, or you want to know when your state gets approved for funding and when you can take action to get some of this new funding, use the link below. And lastly, if you want to join us for our exclusive members only webinars, go to helloskip.com/plus and use the invite code YTVIP. Would love to see some of you there next week. Most importantly, have a great weekend. Stay well, stay healthy, and I'll see you tomorrow.